Okay, so a quick overview of IB Music. First, the most important caveat. So this curriculum just changed. This year is actually the first year that they're testing on it. So it used to be that you would have to actually do a music exam and be able to analyze classical music scores. But they totally rewrote the curriculum. And so now the SL and HL courses require no formal prior training in music. So if music is something that you've always wanted to do, but you never had the chance to take piano lessons or guitar lessons or violin lessons, this is the perfect opportunity for you to dive in and be able to experience the class at whatever level you're at, either if that's no training at all or you've been taking piano lessons since you were 2 years old. So they split this course. It's really cool. It's a very holistic design. So you have kind of different musical roles that you take on as a student. So your first role is as a researcher. And this is where you're kind of like looking into the background information. This is your classic music theory, analyzing pieces of music. But then we also use like alternate types of music theory besides just the normal Western style. And you're also, looking into the background of how these songs were created. What is the story behind their creation? You're thinking about what was the artist's intent behind what they were doing. And it's kind of a little combination. This is actually the most writing intensive piece, but it's really, I find it enjoyable writing because I get to pull direct references out of these songs that I enjoy. In the example, they have an example of your traditional classical piece, and then the example also analyzes Drake's Hotline Bling. So you can compare music that you really connect with as well as music that is sort of, culturally renowned. Your next role is as creator. So in this role, you actually have to take on composing and creating your own piece of music using a variety of instruments, using a variety of media. And luckily, we live in an age where it's super easy to be able to write and compose your own music. You don't even have to really be able to read music to write music, which seems crazy, but yeah, this technology that we have makes it super easy to do that. And then your last role is, of course, as performer. So how are you going to present and share the works that you create? How are you going to perform other people's works, share their ideas, etc.? So the syllabus components, again, is sort of breaking down into three major categories. And these categories end up being the portfolio that you present as your assessment for the class. So music used to have a test. There's no more tests. Now it's more of the standard art style where you present your own portfolio, showing the work that you've done. So the first portfolio is where you talk about exploring music in context, right? That analysis, that background research. How is that research influencing your own creation of music? How does that research influence your own performing of music? So this is like, it's the kind of thing where we do lots of small little analysis, and then you choose the assignments that you like throughout the class, and then put those all together into a large portfolio at the end of the year. The next category is experimenting with music. So this is the quote IA, the internal assessment part. So in this category, you're challenged with sort of trying to push your musical boundaries, whatever that might be. So if you're already, pretty proficient, you might be trying to experiment with weird time signatures or weird keys and modalities. Or if you're a newer student, you might be trying to work on recording multiple tracks of a piece, or working on writing a melody and then a harmony that fits with that melody, or even like a counter melody to go along with it. So this one, it's kind of cool. They actually only ask for short little excerpts of the piece, so you don't have to feel the pressure of presenting like a fully completed song. You can say this is a 30-second excerpt where I'm focusing on this specific technique, etc. And then the last category is, of course, presenting music. Probably how most of us experience music is as it's presented. And so again, you take on this role as researcher, preparing program notes, and as creator, presenting the music that you've written yourself, and then also as performer, where you're presenting music maybe that someone else has written. And so this is, maybe you hear some of the seniors talking about the IB Music Night. They'll be preparing some pieces for that after spring break. And so that IB Music Night, they have to include different what they call areas of inquiry in music. You could almost think of this, I mean, genres isn't the best word because genres can kind of go across these boundaries, but they're like really broad categories. So the first category is just music for social, cultural, and political expression. These are like your protest songs, your liturgical and church songs, your national anthems, like music that's trying to get us to believe something, to think a certain way, to feel a certain way. The next category is almost like the most pure music. This is just music for listening and performance. This might be like if you go to the symphony or you just go sit in a room and listen to a string quartet, and that's just, you're just there to hear the music and there's maybe no other ulterior purposes to it. There's music for dramatic impact, movement, and entertainment. So when you put on a movie and all of a sudden you're hearing the soundtrack and you're like, wow, this soundtrack is really making this movie hit home for me. That's this area of inquiry. And we actually do a little bit of experimenting with, having a silent film and then trying to compose our own pieces that accompany that film. And then the last category is music technology in the electronic and digital age. So I'm recording this on my computer, which is an incredibly powerful device for making music, so much so that the IB actually integrated it fully into the curriculum. So this includes, using your computer to actually produce music, though you could also go the non-computer route, like this is including electronic music and synthesizers and all of that kind of stuff. But electronics and technology has really revolutionized the way people do music, to the point that certain artists today are like, hey, I recorded this whole album on my phone. It's pretty cool. So yeah, the IB is just really intentional about wrapping that in. And then the last thing you might be curious about is whether or not you want to take this as a standard level or higher level class. The only difference is an extra little portfolio for the HL students called the Contemporary Music Maker. So in that case, the students select a project, which is like pretty open-ended, but some sort of creative musical project. Maybe they're trying to compose some music to go along with someone's film, or maybe they're trying to write some pieces to go along with a play. Maybe they're working on writing their own album. But that Contemporary Music Maker is less about what they produce and more about recording the process of you creating that project. So while you're trying to write the music for this play, you're recording the whole process. Like, this is a melody I came up with, I've done some editing, a meeting with the theater director, and then you show the performance at the end of the recording. Same thing if you're recording your own album, you might be recording little snippets of the process. This is my editing, this is when I'm writing lyrics, yada, yada, yada. And then at the end, show snippets from the final product. Happy to talk about questions that anyone has. And you should definitely talk to any of the students that are in IB Music right now. We got Anna and Jakob and Sophia and Paris and Kahan and Coel. Well, even though Coel's not an IB, he probably has a good idea of the kind of stuff we do. So they're good resources. Yeah, hope you're well.